Hi guys, this is the Amstrad 6128 Plus computer. It is 25 years old this year and it is my favourite 8-bit home computer of all time.
Mon gars, regarde ça, le nouvel Amstrad, je te dis pas 61 28 plus, c'est un vrai micro. Tes cours, tes maths, ton traitement de texte, tu les programmes sur ta disquette. Et si l'anglais te prend la tête, mets une cartouche et fais la fête. Rigole un max sur des tas de jeux, super graphisme, 4000 couleurs, son stéréo dans le moniteur pour un prix hyper sympa.
Nouveau 61 28 plus Amstrad sur cartouche et disquette.
So this is the Amstrad 6128 Plus. It was released in 1990, so it's currently 25 years old. It was released along the same time as the GX4000 console and also the 464 Plus, which you can see in the background there. It's an 8-bit home computer and it's basically the CPC 6128. This was released in 1985. Basically redesigned in new packaging, as you can see, but with additional features like an extended colour palette of 4096 colours, hardware scrolling, hardware sprites and a DMA transfer system for feeding the sound chip to get nice digitised music and other things. More on that later. So what did you get in the package? Well, you get the you get the cartridge, which has the operating system on there, Locomotive Basic, plus packing game Burning Rubber. You get a game paddle controller, and you get a manual. And there we go. So this is the box for the 6128 Plus. And it's quite a nice looking box actually. What have we got on here? Okay, we've got the fighter pilot from Afterburner ripped off there and a fighter plane. We've got the 3-inch disc there, the monitor. We've got a joy paddle shooting fire out its end, and now of course the Amstrad logo. Across the top, home computer system and 6128 Plus of course. On the back it's identical. Same stuff but with barcodes. Let's check out the sides of the box. Let's have a look. Let's turn this around. On the side of the box we've got the obligatory picture of a parent and son using the computer. She's hoping he'll do his homework on there. He wants to play games and it's all very 80s. On here, Amstrad, a world of entertainment. And we've got some pictures of crickets and footballs and skiers, don't know what that is, ninjas, something from Operation Thunderbolt, a Porsche, snooker, yes, lots of entertainments. On the other side, we have what is in the box, and you can see that very well. Let's move in a little closer on this. Okay. Made in various countries, as you can see there. They've got the manual, the Burning Rubber manual, the Burning Rubber cart and basic cart, the joy paddle and disc. Over here we have more information. Home computer system, home computers, Systema home computer, and the contents. Yes, the Amstrad 6128 Plus computer, we get, and then number 2 there, Amstrad PD1 games control paddle, yeah, free Locomotive Basic and Burning Rubber games cartridge. Instruction manual, game instruction manual, CPM Plus disc, and those are the monitors you could have bought. Oh dear, yes. 12-inch stereo monochrome monitor and 14-inch stereo colour monitor. God help you if you ended up with the monochrome one. Well, there's the 14-inch colour one in all its glory. There is nothing else on the box. There you have a nice handle to carry it with, very handy. On the top, there you go, that is the box. This here is the manual that comes with the computer. Quite a thick beast. And it's actually a really good manual. Amstrad were very good with their manuals actually. I remember the 464 one, and being able to understand it as an 8 or 9-year-old kid perfectly fine. Lots of great instructions and examples and how to code and all sorts. So a really good manual. Lots of informations there.
Nuevos CPCs Plus de Amstrad, ahora también con cartucho, teclado, monitor y un joystick infalible. Amstrad CPC Plus, para jugar y aprender, son únicos.
So this is the Amstrad 6128 Plus in all its glory up close. It is a thing of beauty. I think this looks gorgeous, and obviously Amstrad have taken note of 16-bit competitors like the Amiga and Atari ST and modelled it very similarly on them. It looks really good. The keyboard is much better now than the 6128 CPC original. All nicely compacting. Got a numeric pad there and the cursor keys as well. Very handy. It's not too heavy in weight either. There we go. Good luck finding a QWERTY keyboard. Most of the 6128 Pluses out there on eBay, maybe French ones which have AZERTY across the top, but are still usable of course. So let's have a look around the machine and what we have. On the side here, okay, obviously we've got the power on switch. That way, and then obviously got the cartridge slots here. Cartridges sometimes a little bit tough to get in and out, but they fit nice and snug in there. There's the Burning Rubber cartridge, and it includes obviously Locomotive Basic, like the operating system on a cartridge, essentially. And without this, the computer will not power on. Can't pull out a cartridge whilst the power is on. It is locked in there. Okay, got lots of ports here. From right to left, that's your stereo headphone jack. Those are your two joystick ports. So you can actually plug two joysticks in now for two-player games. Brilliant. That is the analog port for an analog controller, like a flight stick I presume, but there are absolutely no games that do use an analog stick, unfortunately, not to my knowledge anyway. And this, oops, sorry, focus, is the aux port. Now I'm not sure really what that's for, but I'm told it could be for connecting a light pen or similar. I think maybe the Trojan light phaser has a connector like that, and the light gun plugs in there. Good luck finding one. Along the back, right, lots of ports here. Wow. First two I'll point out, of course, is that's the 5-volt DC port for your power, and that's your monitor port as well. So your monitor plugs in there. And again, you have to use the monitor that came with the computer. You're forced to get that and connect that up. However, there are dongles and add-ons you can get to connect it to a television. Right, this port here is for a second disk drive, so you might want to connect a 3.5-inch floppy drive to that. This one is the expansion port. I'm not quite sure what you could plug in there. Possibly like a plus compatible multiphase 2. and other devices. This one is for your printer. There you go. Nothing else on the other side apart from your disk drive. 3-inch disk drive, not 3.5 inch. Very sturdy, very reliable. Just watch out the rubber band inside. Call it the rubber bands. It's the disk drive belt. Does tend to perish over time or get slack. So if your discs ain't working, usually that's the case. Or the read-write head in there needs a clean. Lots of tutorials on how to do that. Lots of things available to fix it on eBay for cheap prices. So it's not a killer. Underneath, oh dear. Underneath we don't have much going on. Just this in the middle. Amstrad 128K microcomputer. Power supply 5V DC 2.4 amp. Only connect to approved Amstrad equipment. No user serviceable parts inside. Do not remove any screws. And it's made in Korea. And the barcode and stuff. There's something about there of MFRS version C. Don't know what that is. So there you go. That is the Amstrad 6128 Plus. They obviously thought a lot about what they can connect to there. Sadly though, they are missing one crucial expansion port. Where is the port to plug in an external cassette player to load tapes? It don't exist. They've left it off the machine, which is a big mistake. Big mistake. All those libraries of games on cassette, especially if you've upgraded from a CPC 464 to this, you won't be able to bloody play them. Now there are apparently hardware guides and stuff to mod it to allow it to play tapes. I think they were quite nasty and hard to do. So you are stuck with discs, and obviously Amstrad were trying to either save costs and force you to use the disk drive and force publishers to publish in the disc. I don't know, but that is a real shame, and that is the only big downside to the 6128 Plus. Otherwise, I would have named this the arguably the best all-round 8-bit home computer. But anyway, so this is what you're greeted with when you switch on the computer. Amstrad microcomputer version 4, copyright 1985, Amstrad plc and Locomotive Software Limited. And you have to press the F1 key to go to the Amstrad basic prompt, or press F2 to start the burning rubber packing game on the cartridge. Otherwise it will actually start burning rubber after a few seconds anyway, automatically. So what about the hardware and what's inside the 6128 Plus? Well, it's pretty damn similar to the CPC 6128, however with some notable additions really. First of all being the increase in the colour palette to a whopping 4,096 available colours, which is actually pretty damn impressive, and it can result in some really awesome graphics. Although you're still limited to the number of colours you can use on the screen, but with the increased number of colours in the palette you can have far better blending of colours and things like that. We also have dedicated hardware scrolling and in a way dedicated hardware sprites, which are for programmers are still quite difficult to utilise because the CPU is still relatively underpowered for the type of games it needed to produce in like the early 90s. However, it's still a great addition, and you can see it used to great effect in like the kart games and the GX4000, for example, Robocop 2, Navy Seals, etc. What else is there? There's a DMA chip, I believe, but I think more accurately it's an automatic DMA transfer system for feeding the sound chip. And what this means, to the best of my knowledge, is that It can feed lots of information directly to the sound chip without bothering the main CPU too much. And how that is useful is with digitized sound and music. For example, the screeching of tyres and burning rubber, or a more better example would be the music you'll hear in the title screen of Prehistoric II. So at last on to the games, and we're going to start with a big one, Prehistoric II. Now we have a menu when we load up where we can choose from the 464 64K version, we can choose the Plus version, which we'll look at shortly, or the CPC 6128 version. And that's the version we're going to look at first, just as a comparison. So this is what it would look like and sound like on a CPC 6128. Take note of the music, the colours on the title screen, and the in-game graphics. Now most games on this list, they work on a normal CPC computer, but when you load it up on a Plus machine, it detects that you're loading it on a Plus machine and then enables the sum of the Plus features, usually just an extended colour palette being used on the title screen or in-game graphics. So here is Prehistoric II on a normal CPC 6128 and what it looks like. It actually already looks fantastic and gorgeous. Actually probably one of the best examples of use of colour on a normal CPC 6128. And it actually plays really well as too. It's a very good platformer. But wait and see the difference on the 6128 Plus, which we will load up now. So we choose that from the menu, the Plus version, and check out this title screen and music. Wow, that is impressive. What a difference. That is a gorgeous title screen there. And the music being played there is digitized music, and I think it's the only game in this list that actually utilizes the DMA chip to get that kind of digitized music playing and sounding so good. But anyway, let's start the game off on a real Plus. Wow, okay, what a difference in the graphics there. They look stunning. And we've got parallax scrolling with those trees. And check out the skyline there with the fading blues. Although we have a better skyline faded on a later game in this list, Striker and the Cryptid Trojan, but this is still looking really good and plays absolutely fantastically. In fact, if you looked at this without knowing what system it's being played on, you might even be fooled into thinking, is this a 16-bit game on a Amiga or Atari ST? Maybe. It does look that good. And this is the difference that the additional 4096 colours of the Plus palette can do. Now the rest of the game really though is still working on stock CPC code that would have worked on the CPC 6128 that was released in 1985. Unfortunately it really isn't using any hardware scrolling or hardware sprites. The hardware sprites is being used on like the clouds there and on the trees you saw for the parallax scrolling. But that's like an afterthought, it's an addition. It really isn't using any of the hardware sprites or hardware scrolling that the Plus machine can do. Well actually, just to confuse matters, it is actually using a kind of hardware scroll. Whilst the normal CPC machine didn't have any sort of dedicated hardware scrolling support,
you could do some tricks with the graphics chip into doing some kind of hardware scroll. Usually it was kind of a push scrolling technique, which we see in use in this game here and in other earlier games like Ghosts and Goblins, for example. But it's a shame that it isn't using full hardware scrolling for the actual game itself and hardware sprites for the Plus version of the game. It would mean that the game would have to be rewritten from scratch. It also suffers from slowdown, like in sections here where there's lots of sprites on screen. Maybe if it had been rewritten with hardware sprites, we wouldn't have suffered that problem. There's some cool effects though, like you could pick up that icon there, it changes from day to night. And you can pick up another icon to change it back to day. But yeah, fantastic game, very hard to get hold of. It's going to go for a very high price on eBay. Next game on the list is Space Gun, and this is a real oddity and rarity in the list because this is the only dedicated Plus only release. This was released on disc for the 6128 Plus only in France, and it was done by Ocean Software. So very strange how this came about. My theory is this was destined for the GX4000 console. However, the game ended up being too large for the cartridge, and so Ocean basically canned the project. But the game was complete, so they decided to bung it out on disc for the 6128 Plus in France, because the Plus machines actually did relatively okay in France, so there was quite a user base there. So it kind of makes sense. It's kind of reminiscent of Toki, which was destined for the GX4000 console, but only the first level was completed, but it was already looking like it's going to need a larger cartridge to hold the game in, of which Ocean weren't prepared to stump up the cash to do that. So this is Space Gun, and it's like an Operation Wolf shoot 'em up. You got hardware sprites there on the crosshair, but the rest of the game probably could have run on a normal CPC fine. In fact, it was released for the ZX Spectrum, and it is actually pretty much a ZX Spectrum port. And you can tell this by the graphics on the aliens, which are identical to the ZX Spectrum version, but also because they have sort of a like chunky black rectangles and squares around the sprites, and they look really messy. This is because it's using the specky graphics, and on the ZX Spectrum, to the best of my knowledge, to get more colours on screen without colour clash, that's what you had to do. But it's nice to use the hardware sprites on the cursor there. It moves silkily smooth around the screen. It's just a shame about the rest of the game. But the sort of ZX Spectrum port isn't the problem here. It's the horrendous lag in the game from when you actually fire your weapon and your projectile or bullet or wibbly wobbly red thing there actually hits the target. It just takes too long, by which time your gun has probably overheated and the gun's already slowed down further, and the enemy has already hit you and attacked you and you've lost energy. It makes the game pretty much, actually not pretty much, it is impossible to complete. So awful, really, basically. The only way to complete the game is to use cheats. In fact, I've done a long play of this game in my channel, if you want to look back through my old videos, and it's the only long play to my knowledge where I've had to use a cheat to complete the game. I really hate doing that too. Even with the toughest games, I just have to spend hours slogging through them, but with Space Gun, it's impossible. It's utterly impossible. Unless someone can show me different. But yeah, your gun overheats too quickly, which is that sort of watch the red bar on the bottom left of the status bar. And you can hear from the sound effects just how lag has affected the your gun shooting at the aliens. I mean, look at that. I am shooting him in the head and nothing is happening, and eventually he explodes. I think you'll see a good example of the problem here. I think we're coming to the end of the level here shortly. But I'm firing away, nothing's really happening. Eventually something happens, like a limb blows off the alien. But what a shame, especially for really the only commercially released plus only game in the list. The rest of the games are all games that work on a normal CPC but detects you loading on a plus machine and enables some extra features that the plus machine uses. In reality though, this game probably could have worked on a normal CPC 6128. But I guess they didn't want to take any further time in reprogramming the game. They were just releasing it on a normal Amstrad. Oh well. Yeah, look at the lag there. It's awful. I'm firing away and the alien manages to sort of get a hit on me. Yeah, and that should be the end of the level. What a shame, and good luck finding this game on eBay. I don't think I've ever seen it for sale in years. If it does, it'll go for a very high price. Moving on, this is Fluff, and I debated whether to include it on this list of commercially released games or not, because was this ever released in high street mainstream shops for sale? No. Was this ever released in independent software, independent computer shops? Probably not. Was it sold by mail order? Yes, it was. But Amstrad Action magazine did make a huge fuss of the game at the time. It was on the front cover of the magazine, and it did sell quite a few copies. But so here it is in the list anyway. Sod it. I'm going to include it here. And this is basically the Amstrad's answer to Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog. How does it hold up? Well, this level kind of looks like a bit like a level on a Sonic the Hedgehog, but it really is an unfair comparison. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog was amazing for its time, even on a 16-bit machine. But Fluff here has her own little spinning attack there with the second fire button and the first fire button to jump. And Fluff here has to collect her little Fluff babies. There's 4 of them per level. Collect all 4 Fluff babies like the one there, and you move on to the next level. The problem with this game is that the level design, it's really hard to tell which platforms you can jump on, which you can't, which things drain your energy and which don't. And it certainly isn't a Sonic the Hedgehog beta by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's rather unfair and hype done at the time by Amstrad Action magazine just to sell more magazines. However, it's still a really good game. As you can see, we've got hardware sprites throughout the game, hardware scrolling. It's really, really colourful. Just some niggles, like energy randomly draining there. Watch what happens when I move over just above that fruit there. You'll see it again in a second. Energy randomly drains, and yeah, it dropped down again. And the energy bar on the far left. Very strange. The game does feel rather unfinished and unpolished at times, and could have done with some more work. However, like Space Gun, it's the only other game on this list that is plus purely only. There's no CPC version that will work on a normal CPC 6128 or whatever. This is plus only. And oh yeah, I have a bit of a run up and build up there. Fluff does get some speed up. But yeah, it's still a really, really good platformer and a really, really good game. It's highly rated. In terms of platforming, I don't think it beats Prehistoric II, but it's still really good. just a really odd level design and some annoying bugs in the game. For example, we've got a bit of a sprite there appearing on the right that shouldn't be there, and a little bit of poor level design. Otherwise, definitely a game worth getting for your Plus machine. I doubt you're going to find a physical copy to buy on eBay, but there's plenty of ROM dumps available for it. Download it, whack it on a disc using the tools provided on the internet, and enjoy Fluff. Moving on, we're going to look at a French compilation here called DDay. I don't think many people know about this. Now, there's 4 games on this compilation: Sherman M4 Tank Simulator, and ADS, which is Advanced Destroyer Simulator, and 2 games that were written especially for it: an infantry game and a parachuting game. And those 2 games actually use some Plus features. Load it up on a Plus and you get this nice looking title screen and the loading screen we saw previous. And in the infantry game and parachuter game, we're going to look at the infantry one specifically, you get extra colours in game. It doesn't look hugely different to the CPC version, but it does look nice, and it is, well, it uses Plus features. Now, the infantry game on DDay is very, very interesting to me, because it's basically a precursor to cannon fodder, before cannon fodder existed. Now, you have about 20 missions, I believe, you can choose. You can play any of them at any point. There's no sort of progression. You have to do one level after another, and there's no ending to the game, unfortunately, which does make it less enticing to come back and play and challenge you. However, it's still good fun nonetheless. You control a band of soldiers there. They're in the bottom left there, and using the icons you can perform actions. At the moment, the orange icons there, the arrows, move us around the play area and shows us we've got a village, tanks, enemy soldiers and snipers, bunkers and turrets to destroy. So using the plus and minus icons, we can move between our soldiers and send them off doing tasks simultaneously. So one could be running off, one could be shooting, one could be moving and then launching grenades. It all works like that and works really, really well. So I'm just moving a sniper here, sorry, one of our normal soldiers, but I think we need our rocket launcher guy here to take out that enemy bunker and pillbox. So we select our rocket launcher icon and target it. Thankfully we're hidden behind a bush so they can't see us, so you've got to use some clever tactics here to hide behind things or distract. So perhaps you could use one soldier to sneak around and track the enemy fire out of distance, while another soldier sneaks around the back and shoots them. So you've got to use those kind of tactics. It looks like we destroyed the bunker there, which is good. So we're going to move this soldier into position and try and shoot that guy there. But if we're not quick, he's going to notice us. So we started shooting him. Unfortunately, he's been shooting back at us as well at the same time. So we've lost a soldier there. It's not as easy as it looks. So let's see what this guy can do. And we do have some grenades to use. We've got 26 of them. So we're going to select the grenade and see if we can throw it over the bush. Unfortunately, he's doing exactly the same to us. He's spotted us, sadly. So we're now left with only our rocket launcher guy, and this level is going to be pretty much impossible to complete now. But let's see if we can get behind that bush and take out that sniper. And there he goes. So yeah, guys, this is kind of like an early version of cannon fodder in a way. I don't know any other game really like it. Obviously cannon fodder is much more fun, but this is still a fantastic game to play on the 6128 Plus. And if you haven't played it, do track it down. It's really good fun. The other Plus game on the compilation, the parachuting game, is also good fun. but not quite as good as this one. Sadly though, the plus features really aren't utilised that well. We've got a few extra colours in game really, and not much else. But there you go. Next up, this is Golden Eagle, and we're playing the Spanish language version here, because actually this is a French game, and I'm going to try and pronounce the title of the game in French, and I apologise to any French viewers for my appalling French, but this is called Aigle dehors, le retour. I bet that's completely wrong. Roughly translated to English is The Golden Eagle, The Return, and it's a sequel to a game called Golden Eagle, released many years ago in France. I have no clue what we're doing in this game. Now, like DDay and the rest of the games in this list, this works on a normal CPC, but detects you loading it on a plus machine and enables extra colours in game. And like DDay, perhaps isn't significantly better than the CPC version, although it seems to be a good game in its own right. I know you can interact with computers and objects like I've just done there, and it's then a bit confusing of what you're supposed to do. I think you're supposed to hack in, find codes. Where you find the codes, I'm not sure, possibly from the manual. Yeah, very rare game to track down, like any of the others on this list, apart from maybe Striker and the Crypto Trojan, and will command a very high price on eBay. A game with plus compatible features is going to go for a very high price. Oh, okay, we can have a look at the map on the computer there. But moving on, some nice animation in the game, definitely. Rather small playing area though, which is a bit of a shame. I don't know why it's so small. Yeah, and sometimes you walk off a screen and you sort of move on to the next area and you're on the same side of the screen, which gets confusing. Some obstacles to avoid there. I have to say that apart from his walk, which looks really strange, like something out of the Monty Python's Ministry of Silly Walks, the animation is really good. For example, when you're firing a gun. Nice moves. So there you go. Oh, and I think I've been captured there. But let's move on to a game I've already mentioned a couple of times, I think. Striker in the Crypto Trojan. Now really, this game shouldn't really be in this list at all, because where do I start on this one? Okay, well, first of all, it's a budget release from Codemasters Software, therefore it's on cassette, and it does use plus features in the game. But of course the cassette, well, you can't use it on a 6128 Plus because there's no port to add a cassette deck to the 6128 Plus. Therefore, should I really include it here? Well, you know, there's plenty of people have done dumps of this game for a disc version, and you can download it and so forth and still run it on 6128 Plus in a way, using SD card. I'm sure someone's done a cartridge conversion of this game at some point, etc, etc. Okay, so this Switchblade lookalike, which is done by the same guys who did the game Switchblade on the GX4000 and CPC. I've used pretty much the same engine here, but look at the gorgeous colours there in the skyline. Now I have to say that unfortunately the emulator hasn't actually captured it. There's actually a lot more colours there than what you're seeing on this video, unfortunately. You have to see it on a real plus machine. Unfortunately, the video capturing software on WinApe emulator doesn't seem to capture that very well. However, it still looks fantastic anyway. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Those are the only plus features in the game. But this game at the time caused a real stink and stir, because it was reported at the time as being the first game to utilise the plus features available, but not being on cartridge. What I haven't explained at all throughout this video is that Amstrad locked out all the additional features to a cartridge only software. and there is a check done at the time to make sure you're using a cartridge, otherwise the plus features can't be used. Well, clever programmers like the guy who made this soon found out about how to get around that and use it in this game, which is against Amstrad's wishes, and apparently they were upset at the time, but I doubt they were, because they knew the machine was a flop, so they obviously didn't really care. There is discussion and arguments that one of the French games we've looked at, or about to look at, unlocked the plus features first, but this is the one that really caused the biggest stir at the time, especially being a budget release on cassette for £2 or £3.99. But there's no other real plus features used in the game at all. It's just that skyline really, and unfortunately you do spend most of your time underground. But check out what happens here on the next screen. Look at that, that is gorgeous. Unfortunately the video capture here isn't doing it justice. There's a lot more colours used, it looks a lot nicer and smoother. But yeah, day changes to night and night to day again. Fantastic. You've got to see it on a real plus machine to believe it. It's so lovely. But that's it though, no hardware sprites used or hardware scrolling or anything like that in the game. Let's see though who can defeat. Ah yeah, we defeated the boss, and I think that will do. Very similar to Switchblade on the GX4000 console, maybe a notch or two above it. But on the next game we'll look at, the next game does actually feature on the GX4000 console, but with a different name here. The next game being Best of the Best Kickboxing Gold Edition, or sometimes known as Championship Panzer Gold Edition Karate. This one's really confusing. Essentially it's Panzer Kickboxing, and there are about 3 different versions of Panzer Kickboxing. Panzer Kickboxing that came out on a normal CPC range of computers a year before, and then we have this one, Best of the Best, and the GX4000 Panzer Kickboxing, released at roughly about the same time in 1992. What's the difference? Well, again, this works on a normal CPC but detects you're using a plus machine to load it up on, so enables extra colours from the palette here and in game. It also features a training section which is missing on the GX4000 version, which is odd. Maybe there wasn't enough space on the cartridge to fit that in. That would be my guess. So yeah, this is the training session, which is completely missing from Panzer Kickboxing on the GX4000 and on the CPC, and is only on this Best of the Best compilation. Here we're just hammering the fire button down as fast as we can to build the power meter up. And you can see there our resistance has gone up by 1%. Ooh, whoopee-doo. Next is strength, and again we're hammering the fire button down like a mad thing and trying to get as much kicks in as we can before time runs out. Okay, cool, we've increased our strength. And next is a test of reflexes by using the up, left or down keys to hit the targets that appear. Oops. Easier said than done though, you have to be really quick here. But still nice graphics and animation. But if you already played Panzer Kickboxing, you know what a good game this is and how good the animation is. But let's get into a match. Now the next difference between this version and the GX4000 version is the small squash playing area, which is really odd. The GX4000's version is basically full screen and looks gorgeous. This still looks good, but only about just over a third of the size, which is really strange. Anyway, it's still a really good game. It's one of the best one-on-one fighters you can find. Takes a lot of skill as well. There's a huge range of moves available, I think on this version you get a range of moves by holding down the fire button and using the direction keys, and also without holding down the fire button and using the direction keys. So probably around about 12 to 16 different moves, including a block. I think on the GX4000 version you can use fire button 1, fire button 2, so there's potentially more moves on the GX4000 version. I don't know, I've not confirmed that. But the animation and graphics are absolutely stunning for an 8-bit system, at least anyway. I mean, no, sorry, it's really good. And very tough. The trick to this game is like knowing the distance from your opponent and what move to use. But let's see if we can knock him out before the end of this part of the video, and we move on. There we go. A nice roundhouse kick to the face, and he's out for the count. Okay, moving on to the last commercially released game in this listing section. It's Bumpy's Arcade Fantasy. And again, just like the previous games we looked at, this works on a normal CPC, but detects you loading it up on a plus machine and thus enables extra colours on the title screen here and also in game. Unfortunately though, it's not really made much of a difference. They're still pretty basic colours really, and basic graphics. So a little bit pointless, but a nice touch nonetheless. I mean, it's a relatively simple game. I think just from watching these few seconds you can gather what you need to do. Fire button makes you bounce off a platform, and then you can only move left and right. That's it. Very simple. Collect all the objects on the level and then get to the exit. Obviously things get tougher as new objects and deadly things are introduced. That pink thing there in the top rightish has spikes on it. Don't jump into the spikes or you'll die. And you can choose your levels to play on, and things start getting a little bit more complex now. So yeah, I think there was another Bumpy game before this one. I think this may be a sequel. It is damn good fun though, and underappreciated. It's kind of been forgotten about because I think it was again only released in France to the best of my knowledge, and didn't get a UK release, and potentially no release in Spain or Germany, which is a shame. It's a very good fun game. It mixes both skill and puzzle solving. Oh, got to avoid those pink spiky platforms, at least underneath them. But there you go, that is all the commercially released games on the 6128 Plus. A sort of final list of games here, guys. We're looking at games released into the public domain, and the first two being conversions and remakes. This is a conversion of the early 80s coin-op arcade classic Frogger, done by the guy who makes the WinApe emulator, of which I use to record and play all my Amstrad stuff, and is the best emulator in my opinion for the Amstrad, especially for the Plus machines and GX4000 console. I don't think you're going to find a more faithful and perfect conversion. It even managed to get the title screen here. Yes, and the thing about the Plus machines is with the additional hardware, it does allow programmers to achieve better things. For example, matching the arcade machine as closely as possible by using hardware sprites Even arcade machines back in the early 80s still had dedicated hardware to do a lot of its functions, which a humble 8-bit home computer wouldn't necessarily have. So we can use hardware sprites here for the sprites, and also with the extended colour palette we can closely match the colours as well using the arcade original, which I presume is why this Frogger conversion has been done specifically for the Plus machines. And I think it's arcade perfect. I mean, I'm not an expert on Frogger, I haven't spent a lot of time playing it, but I don't think you're going to find a finer coin-op conversion than this one, or Donkey Kong on the original CPC machines. But there you go. So that's a conversion done for the Plus machines. Let's have a look at a remake of Rick Dangerous. Now this uses the original CPC code but adds in loads of stuff. For example, this loading screen here. We get a brand new title screen too, which we will see now after it loads. Yeah, you may some of you may recognise some of those nicknames there. They've been Fano, McDeath and stuff, been involved in lots of projects for new games on the Amstrad over the last few years. But yeah, there's some new options here for gameplay. We've got an extended version, and we can change the dying sound to sample speech as well. And plus, they've introduced the cutscenes which were missing on the CPC version, plus a jingle of music. And now the game is really close to the 16-bit versions. But check out the redone graphics here, they look gorgeous. Oops, I got caught by the boulder. But you can hear the new dying sound there, which is sampled speech. I don't know whether they're using the DMA chip here or not to do that. Wow! That's really cool. The colours now in the game really suit it, and it looks absolutely stunning and gorgeous. We've got a brand new status bar which is overlaid over the actual game screen, which is really cool. We've got new animation there on the dynamite, I believe, and I think there's probably loads of other stuff I've yet to see or notice. So this is a fantastic remake and deserves more attention and credit. I mean, Rick Dangerous is already a fantastic game on the Amstrad CPC, but this just adds to it. Obviously, Rick Dangerous is kind of a frustrating game if you've not played through the levels and know where the instant deaths are. It can be a very frustrating game, it's quite annoying. But this is utterly delightful now with all the added extras, so well worth downloading and checking out, guys. Okay, so the next games on the list, I think the next 3 games are just games released in the public domain and not necessarily up to a high standard. This one is Burger Party, and we're greeted to a burger on the loading screen. This is a bit of a strange one. It's a horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up, and it's nicked some of the Burning Rubber logo there. Code by Zach, music by Zik, graphics by Rainbird from Futures in 1995. Initial impressions seem okay for a public domain game. It's very nicely presented for a public domain game, but yeah, it'll lose its staying power after a short amount of time. So you play a tomato ketchup bottle trying to collect tomatoes to replenish your stock of tomato sauce to shoot out at various nasties, like the McDonald's burger we saw there, and now the Happy Fries. So yeah, I think we've got hardware sprites being used here. and possibly hardware scrolling there on the star field, which is done in a parallax kind of style, and lots of colours as well. So it's using quite a lot of the plus features. It's just a shame it's a not very good shoot 'em up, because you can only fire one tomato sauce bullet at a time until it either hits the target or reaches the end of the screen, which isn't very good at all for shoot 'em ups at all. No, 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 no. So the game gets fairly tedious relatively quickly. However, it's probably the best of the public domain releases. Quite nice music though. Oh, got some evil ice cream after us now. But that's all I know about the game, guys. This one's a little bit of a mystery to me. I don't think much changes throughout the game though. We lost the green grass at the bottom there, that's about it. Oh, we've got a bowl of salad after us and it's killed us. And it's game over. We don't actually get to see what your energy level is at all. Anyway, moving on to one of the strangest named games. Call Barbie D10 Earth. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know Earth means egg in French, I believe. I hope so. Yeah. Okay, this is doing my head in. I'm really, really tired and quite ill, guys. So apologies for my poor narration here. This one, okay. Not much is known about it. It looks really nice though from this title screen. A CPC game by Phoenix for the Amstrad Expo 2005 Compo. Oh, so this was done for a competition. And we're going to have a look at the instructions here. The goal of this game is to help a small creature to push an egg, une earth, to the exit of the scene, which is indicated by a horizontal arrow on the left or right of the screen. So we can move the creature left or right, and we can jump up or jump forward, and I think that's it. That's all you can do. This looks really nicely presented so far. Lovely colourful graphics and nice music. I just want to start the game off though. We have to wait for the title screen to get through all the bits though. First of all, come on, let's start the game. Now yes, this is a real pig to control. The controls are not fantastic. It's not exactly particularly responsive. It's a very nice concept for the game. So we control this strange little creature there, and he can move left and right, jump up or jump diagonally, and he needs to push the egg and avoid the red nasties. So we do that, jump over it, and then move really, really quickly. Now I think we need to jump over the gap, turn right, and drop down. So right, yeah. If you drop down straight on it, that is the direction it will move, the way you're facing. And damn it. Yeah, nice concept, just not very well executed. Now the next one here has 3 different, basically plus versions of Manic Miner and Set Willy. A bit of an oddity, this one. Another one I don't know very much about, but I think essentially again it's Manic Miner. There's a hack of Manic Miner that was done a few years ago and they've done it with extra colours, and Set Willy here with extra colours, and it looks rather pink and garish, and strangely it's missing all sound effects, which is sad. And I think there's a few bugs in the game introduced with collision detection, yeah, and a few other things. Well, it's Set Willy. It's a very, very old game now in garish colours. I suppose it looks a bit better. But that is the game we're going to end on here, basically. That is pretty much all the Plus games. Obviously, I've missed out the entirety of the cartridge games, which can all be played on a GX4000. And the GX4000 is basically the 464 Plus, but minus the tape drive and keyboard, etc., and squashed into that little console. So I will probably do a separate video of all the kart games in full. I've already done one with all the kart games, like 25 games in 25 minutes, with short bits about each game, so check that out. But there you go guys, the 6128 Plus. I hope you enjoyed it. It's well worth getting, and I hope you check out some of the games.
So there you go guys, that is the Amstrad 6128 Plus. I absolutely love this thing. It's my favourite computer of all time, and I would argue that it could be the best all-round 8-bit home computer to buy. Controversial maybe. Not without its faults and problems. Of course, released far too late in 1990 to be competitive. Certainly the Amiga and Atari ST 16-bit machines have been out for a while. That's what it was competing against, really. Also, the lack of a tape drive port, so you could play all those hundreds of cassettes you may have owned. That was a real bummer. And also, I have to point out that there were several games that may not work on here due to a new keyboard scanning thing introduced, which meant it wouldn't register any keys you pressed and you wouldn't be able to start the game. However, patches have been released for those affected games, which you can probably find on the CPC Wiki site and CPC Power website too. But there you go. Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed. Good luck tracking one down if you want to go for it. And happy 25th birthday to the Amstrad 6128 Plus. So thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.